Well, I liked your story on LinkedIn yesterday when you had your nails done.
Oh, it's that. Now, that is such an interesting comment to me because I posted that about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, really? And I only saw it yesterday.
And so I've been wondering about that because I keep on getting likes and I keep on getting comments, and every week I get a bit more, and I'm like, that's quite unusual. Why? How come people are still finding
algorithms?
it?
Our algorithms.
So it's just interesting that 3 weeks later it's still being shown. Very interesting. Thank you.
It's actually a good thing, Mel. It's actually a good thing that you are still getting those likes, because that means that the engagement on that post is in line with what the algorithm is doing for you.
Yes.
If you're not getting those posts or those engagement metrics and people liking, then it means that nobody's seeing the post.
Exactly.
And that's an issue.
And I've been trying to figure that out. I've been doing different kinds of posts and trying to see where the traction comes from.
Yeah.
And what have you learned, Mel? Because LinkedIn is it's all over the place for me at the moment.
Yeah. So this is my story about LinkedIn. When I go on LinkedIn, I must be wearing my big girl panties and my armor. And I must know, to me, I call LinkedIn the most loveless place on the net. When I go on Facebook, I post some nonsense on Facebook and 100 people like it. I post my heart out on LinkedIn and my best friend and my business partner likes it. So I've been testing it. So that post, firstly, zero AI generation, just a photograph of me going to the nail parlor.
Yeah.
And then a story about how I came out feeling something was missing because it was a new nail parlor. The person didn't talk to me, and I missed my beautician, who I know. And it was just like a real human story. No real value, But then I do all these value-added posts and everything, and nothing happens. So it was very interesting. So thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
I think it's because it was a human story.
Yes.
Because the posts aren't human anymore; they all generate.
Yeah.
Doesn't that tell you something?
That's absolutely.
Absolutely.
People are just, last night it was so funny. We went and sat down, and I don't know what, we switched the TV on, and Charles just said to me, "Oh, I just can't see AI or hear about AI again. I'm AI'd out." And isn't that how we're all feeling? And I think to a large extent, I get that sense from LinkedIn. Everything is just AI, and
Have you seen, Linda, and at the risk of digressing just for another minute, there's a new, where you can save LinkedIn posts, that the top where there's now a new thing there. Apparently it hasn't been rolled out everywhere, where you can actually mark it as this seems like AI slop.
Oh, really?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's
cool. It seems there's a bit of a backlash. It's been fascinating seeing people's posts, like people who love it and others who feel it's super judgy, and it's been very interesting to watch.
It's going to be my most favorite used feature.
Yes, I'm sure it will.
Slap. Yeah.
See, I have a different. I go onto those people's posts and I really counteract them, because I'm like, most people, because I work in the space of early AI adoption and helping people just cross that bridge from not using AI into using AI. That's where I really love to work.
Yeah.
And do you remember when you discovered what AI could do for you? Do you remember when you created your first
email
picture, which you just puked now if you saw it, if you even knew what it was, and you go really, and I put that anywhere? But those people are entitled to go through the process as well. And so I have a strong aversion to AI shaming of any type. I'm like, people must be able to experiment. They must be able to showcase what they are very proud they discovered without all this judgment coming at them all the time. Because how are they going to then move forwards?
We had a chuckle. We were watching a three old ladies on whose YouTube channel is it?
I don't know. You're referring to the ad for OpenAI.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite
Oh,
good.
yeah.
That was really good.
That was
Yeah,
cool.
they had these 3 elderly ladies who were all comparing notes about how they use it and what they use it for. And I just thought that was so brilliant, actually, because it is that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's like everybody thinks that it now belongs to business, you know, and only serious business people are allowed to use it. And that's why Claude is the leader, because it's for serious business people. You know, it's not for anybody who just wants to design their cookbook or some shit, you know.
Exactly. You know, my very favorite thing that I've done in these 2 years of training, and like over 1,000 people, my very favorite workshop was 6, I call them my golden girls, in an apartment, a beautiful apartment, penthouse apartment in Strand. They were all 70 plus. And none of them had they were basically just using WhatsApp. And I then went to teach them what they could do with AI. And it was one of my most joyful experiences and liberating for them. They suddenly felt proud, and they had a conversation that they could have with their grandchildren, and they could be funky grannies. And it just was so lovely.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, no, I agree with that thinking 100%. People,
share the love,
especially now with the way that the real-time voice processes work, and how instantaneous it is, and how real it is now. It really can help with so many mental health issues of the isolated and lonely.
Totally.
I mean, I don't know if you've watched any of those YouTube videos on Neuralink and what Neuralink's about, and what they've managed to do to help people with ALS who are literally wheelchair ridden and cannot move anything besides their eyes. They can't talk anymore, but now they get the Neuralink chip put in, and now this one guy is publishing podcasts where he's interviewing high-profile influencers and publishing it. I mean, what a release for him. Yeah. And it's the same thing in day-to-day life with people that suddenly get a voice.
Yeah,
I think it's brilliant, because you sometimes think, I can't really share this because I might be judged and I might have put a comment in the wrong place. And, you know, people are really harsh, like you were saying, and attack you for the most mundane, crazy thing. It's ridiculous. So I support you 100%, Mel. Your fight is a good one, and you should continue.
Thanks. I'll keep fighting for the little lagger. I'll be the little lagger's rah-rah girl. But I just one more story that is just my favorite story is on our 8-week boot camp that we do. I invited Tracy Todd Hine. She's a quadriplegic. She's paralyzed from her neck down. She literally can only do this. And I invited her to be part of boot camp. We sponsored her seat. And she had just lost her husband, and we wanted to give her something to replace that loss, you know, just to fill her time. And she's now one of our lecturers, and she's one of our, well, she's probably our best lecturer. And she does all the creative stuff. And because she's been using Dragon, the voice activated, it's like a special thing for people who have disabilities. And she's an amazing lecturer, and it has she used to be a teacher 27 years ago before she got paralyzed. And now she's doing her passion again. Yeah. So it's amazing.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Incredible. Okay, so, well, today we're just all going to chat exactly what we're doing now. So I think everybody can put their views on the table about where they think AI is going, how they're using it, how it's changed their life. And I'll start because in some ways I think it sets the scene. You know, when I go to businesses today and I start speaking to them, I think that there's such a throwback to when ERP was first initiated, and we were one of the leaders in ERP. I worked with CISPRO at that stage. And it was amazing how people did not understand what it could do for them, how they could manage things. And so what they were trying to do was purchase the software and bolt it onto the side of all kinds of crappy processes and ways of working. And what it really took for it to work and to work well was basically to clean the slate and to say, let me see how I can re-engineer my entire business to accommodate these processes and ideas and concepts. And I think that's exactly what we need to do now, because when I go to business now and they all say, Yeah, but they don't know how they use it. They've spent such a lot of money on giving everybody licenses and this, that, and the other. And now, there's this, that, they're not getting the ROI on it, etc. And I really think what needs to happen, and it's usually what I say to them, I say, okay, take the core of your business. What do you do? And then understand, if you had to start your business all over again from a clean slate, what would you do now that you've got AI in your back pocket? And it's amazing how the conversation turns and changes, and all of a sudden the light bulb goes on. This idea of taking it to save some admin staff some time, well, that's not what you could use it for. There's so much more it can be used for. And you've probably got to go through that journey. So the first thing that comes up when I speak to clients is usually, it will save us some time. And then others will say, yeah, there's accuracy and whatever. But very few are at the point where they're actually using it to do something useful. I'm sure Devon can attest to that. So for me, that is one of the key things, is to just sort of like open their eyes to the possibilities of how it can influence and change their business at every level, not just at a saving time level or at a making things accurate or cleaning up processes so that they've got a succinct sort of like model at which to work. So I think it's really interesting for me how people have not necessarily accepted that. And I think one of the things we need to do as the Catalyst is to say, how do we help people reorganize that in their minds? Because it starts not with the leadership, it's every single person. How can I change my life to accommodate AI, to make it better so that I can have a more fulfilling life? Just like you said about that lady who was paralyzed. All of a sudden her life has been from something which was just probably dreary and unthinkable to something which is alive and awake, and you feel in touch, and so it starts there. It's how do you start every single person into every single business? And I just think that for me is such a big game changer when that light goes on and people realize what we're doing is trying to apply it to a broken business or a broken process or just a dysfunctional way of working, and then we're blaming the AI. It's always the case, so that is probably, if I have to say how I use it, it's always just to start with first principles. What am I trying to achieve? I now have AI in my back pocket. How can I use that to achieve it? And I think that for me is absolutely how I go about using it every day. And then I use it 100 different models, and any new one that comes up, I find the most useful thing to do is you go into one model and you say, I'm busy using ChatGPT and I don't know how to do this. How do I do it? I even asked ChatGPT to tell me how to do it. I mean, everything can be done because you've got this amazing knowledge bank in your pocket. You don't have to go and read another manual. Just ask it, how do I do it? It's fantastic. It really is. It's brilliant. So I've built a lot of dashboards, a lot of systems which are interactive that you can update and fix. I mean, and that's where the power really lies. So, yeah, I don't know what everybody else is finding is. Diane?
So what is interesting, the conversations that I'm having at the moment is, I say to people, what if you could automate all the dredge work, admin, repetitive work that you're doing at the moment? What would life look like then? And what would you actually be spending your time on? And that's where the fear turns into excitement. Because most people are fearing losing their jobs, but not looking at the fact that what if I had to take all of this stuff that I have to do every day that doesn't excite me, give that to an agent or, automate that. And then what would I do if I had that time? And I think it's important to get to a space where people start imagining a new reality, and that the new reality is something that they haven't thought of. What if they have the time? She looks at me. They look at me and they say, "We don't know." I said, "But what do you guys do on a weekend? What is it that you love doing that you possibly, if you had the time to do, you would do? Even in your workplace." So I think therein lies for me a very nice bridge to transcend the fear.
Yeah, I agree. Miles?
Yeah, so thanks. I think I've said this a couple of times before, just 100% right, Diane, but I think the problem most organizations face is when you say, what if I could automate all your drudge work? They don't know what their drudge work is. They don't know where it starts and where it ends and where the middle is. And that's what I keep on talking to them about, is to say, it's like they, I think most of you know by now that I recently published a book, and it's called Back to the Future. The reason for that is because you got to go backwards, understand how you're creating that value for people in the organization, and then decide. So that's your business process architecture, which the minute you mention that, most people start running away. But that's where you've got to start. Where is that? And then where can I use AI to save all that time that you're talking about? And most of them are hesitant. I mean, I won't mention names, but I got one client, a big bank in South Africa. Just in their home loans division, they have 70 different IT systems that don't talk to each other. So now the minute you start talking to them about this, they get scared. But that's where they've got to go to get to where you're talking about, Diane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so picking up on that then as well, it's what Mel was saying when we started the call. She's like a self-appointed, designated champion for the beginner that's exploring with AI. I think it might have been the way that you put it, Mel. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're basically advocating for the use of AI, which is brilliant. So I think organizations are just reluctant to actually start exploring and understand where it is that they need to go. So I think you're 100% right, Miles. They get totally petrified. They get paralyzed by the fact that they've got so much to do and they don't know where to start. And it's not so much the people doing the work that need to get it done, to get started. It's the management that perhaps are putting the belts and braces in place to prevent it. And there's a very real concern around shadow AI and people just adopting things and using things that and you can compromise the organization. So they've got an awesome responsibility as directors in an organization with King 5, particularly now, to ensure that they do things right, correctly, and responsibly. So I saw a brilliant new product that was launched by Cloudflare this last week. And in essence, what they've provided now, they've provided as a product the tools that they use within their organization to manage AI within their organization in the most powerful way. So I'll give you the link to actually go and have a look at it. I don't want to go into too much detail of it, but in essence, they pass all your traffic through this tool, similarly like they manage DOS attacks and other nefarious actors on the internet on your organization, and it's for a reasonable fee, and they basically stop you exiting and using AI that is not preordained and pre-approved in the organization. So if that simple belts and braces exercise is put in place, you can then start opening it up very quickly and easily. So there was another organization that basically said, okay, we want to give AI now, and we want to embrace this and we want to move it. How do we best do it? So they sit around a room, have a discussion as management and say, okay, all the executives get Claude, everyone else has to use Copilot. And then they said, no, hang on, we can't, let's just talk about this and have a look. And then they actually realized they got it the wrong way around. The directors and management all need to have Copilot because that's where they work inside 365 and it's there, and they don't need the sophistication of what Claude can give, what OpenAI can give. So they basically took the Claude and OpenAI licenses away from the top level management people and gave it to the people that need the intelligence at the level that they work. So, yeah, I think it's a very exciting time. I've got lots to say on this topic, so I'm going to give someone else a chance now.
Timber, you had some good comments that you posted this morning about John's post. I thought that was interesting as well.
John's post?
Is it John Solnau's post?
Oh, yeah, the Accenture one, where he just basically positioned how Accenture for the last, they're probably 50 years old now. I mean, if you just don't count the Anderson years, but they basically built their business on organizing, collecting, and then pointing talent and intelligence at client problems. And over the last couple of years, the share price has just gone down because who arranges knowledge and makes it available and points it at clients better than ChatGPT if you prompt it right? So you've seen that share price drop. And the question right at the end of the post is, what do you do when you get to the point where something else can do what you have done better than anybody else on the planet? And I guess it goes for any technology that the previous generations have met in terms of their own monsters. And I mean, to the point made earlier around drudge work, I sometimes think we don't know what it is, and then when we find it, we fight it. So, forget AI. How many of us have robot vacuum cleaners? And I think there might be only one or two. I saw a really cool R2D2 adapter. So I think I'm going to buy a robot vacuum cleaner just to have R2D2 vacuum my floors. But the technology is there to help us. And sometimes we ignore it because we're so used to doing things a certain way. I mean, Devan unlocked my inner FOMO by sending me a Copilot notebook link. I'm like, your freaking link is broken. And Devan comes back in his, very suave voice going, well, maybe you just don't have the right license. I'm like, fine.
What, do you have to buy this stuff? It's becoming a human right AI.
You need like an enterprise wada. So I said, well, forget that. Let me go do some cool stuff with the new upgrade on ChatGPT. And I mean, this was on Thursday night, date night. I had a workshop that I needed to facilitate full day yesterday in Cape Town. So we moved date night to Wednesday. And I went into, ChatGPT chat, and then eventually it said, what you want to do here needs work. I'd never used work before, but I said, fine, flick to work. Uploaded my stuff and said, I'm going on date night. I'll be back at 9:30. Ping me if you have any questions or let me know when you're done. And halfway through date night, it pings me to say I'm done. And then I try to check it on my phone and it goes, well, you can't check it on your phone because it was an on-desk task, and you can't access codecs from here. I'm like, stop telling me I can't. How can I? And then it goes, well, if you're online at home and you're online here, click on remote, boom, boom, boom. At this point, I put my phone away because I was catching daggers from across the table. And then I waited till I got home, and then I had to check what it had worked on, and it had done pretty well, but we were only 60% of the way there. So I was in trouble with ChatGPT. I was in trouble with my wife, and I just stayed up a little bit longer so I wasn't in trouble with my client. But that's where we find ourselves. And nowhere in that sequence of events did I think about going on a ChatGPT work training course.
Yeah.
Like I just used it to try and solve my own problem in the moment.
Yeah, and nowhere did you think, okay, I'm not going to use ChatGPT anymore. This is rubbish. I'm going back to whatever. Not a chance.
Yeah. And I wasn't going to call Devan because you would have said that I must just upgrade my package. So yes. And it was midnight.
Yeah, no, well, that's fine. Well, Tema, you can always phone me. I'm usually up late and we can just sit and have a chuckle together, if nothing else. Good. Mel.
Yeah, I think what you're demonstrating so nicely, Temba, is that it's just something that I talk about often. My little AI 101 is even called AI confidence booster, because that's what you have. You have confidence to explore. You've got confidence. And I think there's a huge disconnect between people and AI until they've got the confidence. That's why they want to come on a course. That's why they want to watch all the YouTube, because they're afraid. They see work has popped up there, but they don't know what work means, and they're not quite confident. I think confidence, leading people through this process gently and helping them grow their confidence in testing the things, allowing them to break, allowing them to get it wrong, trying again. I think this is like a really important part of this journey of AI. And if you come from a slightly tech background, I mean, I come from a zero tech background. I really had to teach myself everything, watching Udemy, paint dry night after night after night. Yeah. But it's to grow that confidence, to just go, oh, this is new, let me try it. And then we've seen that now in the boot camp, for instance, up to module 7, everybody's still kind of trying things out and very careful. And then we give them this project and suddenly they produce something amazing for their company, because now they've got the confidence. They know where to find things. So, yeah, I do think there's a piece in that. But, I mean, that's what you were explaining just demonstrated so nicely what it means to have AI confidence.
Yeah, and what a nice analogy is, I remember teaching my son how to ride his bicycle on a flat piece of land. It was like a tennis court, and he was learning how to ride his bicycle. And he was so wanting to do it, and he just couldn't get it right. And I mean, we're human as parents and whatnot, so I found it a bit humorous at times. And then he turned at me very sternly and said, "Don't laugh at me, I want to do this." So to actually embrace that desire someone has to, okay, I understand this now, I see the value of it, let me try and embrace it. So I can just applaud you. Well, absolutely.
Yeah, I find it difficult from the point of view that, I think confidence is one thing, but I think there are a lot of people that are worried about cost, because there's so much fear mongering going on about, when you see things about how it wiped out all your data. You see so many YouTubers who try to get clicks and things through fear. It emptied out my bank account and I didn't, and I think that is something that we also need to try and address with people, is that, it does warn you. And if you've set it up correctly, well, I suppose that's where they also come unstuck and they get nervous, because now it says, my ChatGPT doesn't allow me, I don't allow it to do anything outside of where it is unless you ask, but people are really fearful now. So firstly, they were fearful of it. Now they're fearful it's going to do all these horrendous things and wipe their computer and lose their data and whatever. So I think the sooner we get over this whole trying to drive the agenda with fear, the better. And that's a big issue. I think that whole fear issue is a big one. So next is Miles.
Yeah, good. So when it comes to Mel's confidence question as well, and I'm just thinking, we're talking AI, and there's so much else out there, content creation and, things that you're seeing people building multi-million, never mind some of them multi-billion-dollar, and they're 1 or 2 person businesses. Now, I'm not saying that's where we need to go to, but those people started somewhere. And I was just watching, I don't know if any of you, I'm sure some of you watch MasterChef Australia. And this week it's been about the influencers. And there was a lady on last night who all she does is go around the world and eat other people's food. She wasn't phenomenal, but she's got 12 million followers. And all she does is eat food, you know what I mean? And not that nicely either. And so there's so much else out there that we could be looking, that we could, that we could be looking at from an AI. I mean, I recently just built a vibe coded an app for, executive coaching and things like that. And it takes not even half an hour. So, I mean, there's so much stuff out there that we need to look at, but it comes to your what you said, Mel, about the confidence, just the confidence to try stuff and to test it. And at the end of the nice thing about it is I'm testing it, nobody else sees it. So if it looks stupid, nobody else has seen it. You know what I mean? Only me. And I can take it from there. So that is such a phenomenal part of it, is that confidence.
Yeah.
Charles?
So I was having a chat again with my son. He's much older now than when he was riding his bicycle. And he was basically, I said to him, just jokingly, I came into the room and he was speaking to mom on the phone. And I said to him, "Don't you want to buy me some tokens, please? I've run out of tokens and I need to get something finished," just jokingly. And we had a big laugh about it. And then we got into conversation that is exactly where we're getting to now, is that you remember in the old days, we were talking about it earlier in the week as well, Miles, where we were talking about the old US robotics type modem that you used to connect to the internet with. And you used to make that awful noise and then connect you, and then they would charge you for every megabyte that you would download, and you would have this huge like cost type of thing, and then you used to have to buy airtime. I remember putting 2 ISDN lines together to run a business, and we had to keep buying mobile data at one stage to get it going or whatever. And I think that the cost associated with inference on AI is going to go down exactly the same road, where it's going to almost become like a human right to be able to have access to AI, and it's going to be what do they call it down in cell phone terms? Uncapped. So you're not going to have this issue where you can't get something done because, yeah, we might, if we're adopting the use of AI and agents actually executing work on our behalf, then you're going to start using perhaps more than what your AI provider is giving you in terms of your subscription, and then you're going to have to buy tokens to actually keep doing what you need to do. So as much, and I've got a thing here that I want to share quickly as well, as much as that issue is very real, the large labs know and understand that they need to do something about it. And I think they got a big wake-up call around the cost of it when Kimi K3 came out now, and it was so much cheaper than the leading models. So now, or the leading labs. So OpenAI published this yesterday, where they said they've managed through actually using Sol to improve their current stack of model, that they brought the cost down now. So what used to cost $1, for example, to do is now costing 20 cents to do, because they've managed to make it more efficient. So that efficiency curve is just going to get improved, and then we're going to get the ability to use things, we'll do more and more of it with less and less of a cost. So I think the sooner we start adopting to use it, I mean, yesterday I executed a research project internally that I needed to give to a partner of ours to demonstrate what we'd been doing with a client. And it was a 3-year review. I had to do a 3-year review and demonstrate and show what we had done and how we had done it, and demonstrate the value that we brought to the whole process. And I compiled that report in a day. It was 24 pages long, and it had, I think, 24 PDFs that were attached to it as evidence of what it is that we had actually done. In the old days, that would have taken me over a week to do.
Oh, yeah.
I did it in a couple of hours, and I sent it to the partner, and it's just so powerful. And it's just me instructing them, the agent, to go and do what needs to get done to deliver the report. So the turnaround time to get things done is just phenomenal. I'll share this link as well.
And you managed to get through that this time without having to buy more tokens. I mean, we've been chewing through tokens. Devon.
Yeah, thanks. Us, Charles. It was it's fascinating, but I think it's the value is not in the large language model, and we're reaching that point very quickly, I feel. Anyway, I didn't want to talk about that. What I wanted to mention was, I think because we are able to do things so quickly nowadays using the likes of the large language models, I think we're suffering from a knowledge capability. Yeah. I think, and that we're reaching that frontier very quickly. And that's because we're trying to switch between tasks, and we're trying to get things done without really understanding what goes into completing that task. And if we produce shallow outputs, and we don't actually evaluate the output with that much rigor, so I think we have a human problem as opposed to a technology problem. And that for me is very concerning, because I'm seeing that come across in every single one of my clients that I'm engaging with. So that's something that I'm seeing out in the market. What I also wanted to talk about, I do see Karin, I do see your hand. I'll come to that in a few minutes. What I wanted to also share was just some of the, we spoke about mundane tasks and things of that nature. So for those that know me very well, I use Claude quite consistently. So I've got a few scheduled tasks for drudge work, as an example. So I triage my inbox using Claude as opposed to using Copilot, because while I've got the Copilot license, in order to use Copilot Cowork, you need to switch pay-as-you-go billing on, and I've already paid for the license for the year, so I don't want to have to pay more to Microsoft to use Claude's capability of Cowork, and I already pay for Claude. So I use Claude to triage my inbox. And there you can see, so it does it every Friday at 3 o'clock. And it tells me there's a few things in here. So if I go to edits, it follows a series of steps at 3 p.m. every Friday so that I'm prepared on a Monday and I can switch the various models. So I use the most efficient one, generally speaking, or defaults to that. I also use that, I use Claude to dive into my CRM and pick up anybody that's booked a meeting with me, a consulting meeting or an inquiry meeting or something of that nature that have come through from my website. And that adds that booking schedule into my diary. The daily posts, as you can see there, I haven't posted on LinkedIn over 2 weeks because of the slop that's there. And I just I don't want to become part of that, so to speak. So while my daily post produces the post every single day for me, I review it and I determine whether I want it to go live or want it to be published live or not. But that goes across both LinkedIn, X, and posts to my business and my personal account. And then I organize my downloads. I found this to be most exciting. Let me change my screen here. Organizing my downloads folder. I don't know what I don't know what your downloads folder looks like, guys, but this is what mine looks like.
Awful. I do mine as well. Mine gets done every Monday.
Right. This is that's just recent files, but this is my downloads folder. That's the folder structure, right? And everything is like I've got, it's in folders. Because I saved so much, I want to make sure that it's like I know where to go to. If I'm looking for an image, there's an image that there's a folder that I can go to find the image and so forth. So that's a scheduled task as well. That runs every single week, Friday 8 o'clock. Just so that I've got structure so that I don't task switch. Because what I want to ensure that I get over the line for myself, because I can't preach this to my clients, right? If I don't practice it myself.
Yeah.
So I make sure that I demonstrate the value, and then I find the people, how did you get that right? And it's like, here's the prompt. Here's the schedule that I run it on, and it just makes sure that I remain focused. And when I'm in focus time, that I'm in focus time as opposed to trying to task switch to get multiple other things done. Because while I was in corporate, I really found that task switching was something that you are expected to do. People praise you for multitasking, and it's the worst thing that I've ever experienced. And now that I'm out, I find that having the ability to actually manage my certain folder structures, certain administration responsibilities, and things of that nature, because it's just me, myself, and Irene. I can't manage my inbox at the same time while trying to get something done for a client. I need to plan time very sort of purposefully. So I thought it would be very nice that I just show you what scheduled tasks I've got running on. There are a few other things that are paused over here because I've ended those schedules. But hope that was useful for you.
That's very interesting, Devon. Just quickly, so basically your comment about multitasking, I had the experience of that this past week as well, where we can genuinely multitask now. It's not that we have to try and multitask.
So unusual for a male to say that.
Yeah, we can get an agent to do something. And I find often that I'm waiting for something to get done, but I'm not waiting. I'm doing what I need to do, and the agent's doing it. As soon as the blue button pops up on my screen, I realize that it's done, and I can go back to that task and finish off what I need to do. So over to Karen.
Thanks, Charles. Morning, everyone. Such an interesting conversation again. I can agree with so many of you. So, Devon, I actually just wanted to latch on your comment about the human problem that we have. So, the space where I play and work, for me, it's intertwined at the moment. I really enjoyed what I'm doing. is more the smaller to medium enterprises. And what I find there is that many of these organizations are so overwhelmed. Miles, you referred to your large client with all the fragmented systems, but I find that many of the clients in this space have so many systems and nothing of it speaks to each other. So the value offering that I bring is really to say you maintain all of these systems. You sit before the decision to say, should we grow to maintain all of these things? But it's clear as daylight. They don't use it, very little, or let's say very little. I can't say they don't use it, but they don't derive the insights in the areas where it really matters. So they keep it up for the sake of almost nothing, to maybe 1 or 2 commercial indicators. So that's where I find AI helps me to help integrate and see what are they trying to achieve, what can they reduce, and how can they simplify to get the real insights on the aspects that matter most. And then often they get to the question to say, but I don't have to appoint more people. I can use this technology better. So I think there is, for consultants, there's a big potential pool of organizations that can that are open and ready, and that doesn't know, and they don't have the time. They're running their businesses to really get the assistance to really focus on what matter most. But what I did see I don't have many clients yet, I'm still in my baby shoes, but what I do see is the youngsters in these organizations, it's typically the people that you advocate for, they start using it because they're excited about it. But what they do is they add more products and more apps without understanding, Devon, the real issue. And they also don't have the experience yet to bring it into the context. So some of the organizations that I speak to are a little bit shying away also now from AI to say, but yeah, we had this person in our team, they built this app, it took all of our energy and actually it came to nothing. So there's almost an emerging risk of people using it in a way where the product is not really quality. I hear of products that replace psychometric assessments and that literally adds more activity to the business, but it's not bringing the real answer. So somewhere the question starts emerging in my mind, where do one govern the quality? And you can't really govern the impact that it has on your clients by having had the experience of maybe inferior quality products that actually is not right for their business.
Yeah, Karen, I think you've got a very valid point there. I think this speaks to leadership and how leadership should be managing things. You know, leadership have always had an issue with allowing people to make mistakes, haven't they? You know, and I think that is the problem. It's how do you allow people to make mistakes, because they're going to, and they need to be able to make mistakes and try it out. And I think that for me is a big issue with AI at the moment, is management's exactly what Sonia was saying, discernment and judgment about how people use it and who uses it and what they do with it is really lacking. So there's a lot of work that needs to go into getting management up to scratch there. Devon, I think you also want to comment.
Yeah, I do want to comment, and I think Miles wants to just jump in here as well, but because it links to what Miles had said earlier. So what I found in organizations is there's a lot of, I'm using the consulting term now, there's a lot of experimental theater taking place where I'm going to experiment with this and experiment with that, and then boom, it just ends up in like this trough of pilots. There's one organization that had like 200 pilots going at the same time. Like, who's first and foremost, who's spending time on a pilot that's going to produce no value? And you sort of framing that as, no, we are being innovative, we're being creative, we are learning fast. You know, it's all framed under the culture of failing forward sort of thing, which, I mean, it's not wrong. It's great that you frame it in that way. But if you aren't putting the eyes on what work actually looks like, and where in the process does this piece of work, does this pilot, where in the process does this pilot actually solve for the, let's call it the drudge work? How are you going to measure ROI if you aren't actually pinpointing what is taking you 5 hours to do that is of high effort, low value? And if you aren't able to sort of plot those items, then it's definitely going to be experimental theater, because it's not going to produce any value or anything of that nature. So the process engineering of work is such a vital and important piece that needs to take place, so that I know what work looks like, what is a high effort, low value item, what is a low effort, high value item, and what's high value, high effort. You have to uncover those items, right? And once you've understood the effort that goes into each of those and the tasks that go into each of those, you pick one of those tasks and apply generative AI, and maybe it saves you 2 hours. That's fantastic. What took us 5 hours now takes us 3. And therein lies the effort, the value, therein lies the ROI, because you've essentially gotten to your answer, or you've gotten to your output 40% quicker. I'm going to pause there. Miles, you might want to jump in as well.
Yeah, thanks. It was actually funny, Linda, Charles. On Wednesday, we met and said, okay, so what we're going to talk about on Friday morning, like an agenda. And now we're sitting here at 45 minutes and and it's just organic, which is fantastic. That's what fireside chats are meant to be. And I wish I bloody had that fire behind me. It was Joburg's cold today.
Oh, really? We've got a bird wind. It's lovely weather today.
So a couple of things. I think picking up on what you said, Corinne, a while ago, about 18 months ago, I actually developed an AI solution, which actually didn't work out that well. But be that as it may, one of the questions that was asked by one of the top international speakers, I'm not going to mention names, is, he was banging on about AI and its hallucinations and its inaccuracy. And at the time I was doing this app, it was to support management consultants, okay? And one of the things that I did in terms of my study is study how accurate is AI versus management consultants. So I'm a management consultant. I sit with, top executives and whatever, and Miles says something, and they sort of believe me because I have this reputation. But the study found that management consultants are only right 35% of the time, whereas AI is right most probably 80% of the time. So we need to take that into account when we're looking at stuff as well. And then again, it's just such an exciting world we live in, where we can use these tools to save us time. And one of the things that I've done, and I'm sure a lot of the people that are consultants are doing as well, in the past, if I have to get a proposal to a client, I worked out the amount of hours it would take me, and I'd send them a basis on an hourly rate. Now I say, at the end of the day, what used to take me 2 weeks of research to do now takes me half a day. So I actually now start quoting on outcomes, not outputs, outcomes, rather than in hours, because I can do everything so much quicker than I used to be able to do before. Yes, you've got to check it, no doubt about that. You've got to see if it makes sense. But, I think we must also realize that, and I'll just say one more thing, and then I think it's over to Sonia. So I've spoken about this book before. It's called Humans Plus Machines, and I think I might have even used this example before. In that book, there was a study being done on a cure for one of the types of cancers. They reckon if they'd left that just to humans, it would have taken 10 years. But with humans and AI, it took them 30 days. So, I mean, think about that type of power of what we can do today, as long as we are double checking it. Sonia?
Yeah, thanks, Miles. As I was listening to you and also to Devon, Devon, I loved that, what you called experimental theater. And I think there's something here, something that came up for me is, not every experiment needs to be a pilot. And I'm wondering, like, where is the, for lack of a better word, the sandpit or the playpen where people can actually experiment, and maybe everybody gets like an experimental quota. You know, you can experiment for 3 hours a week or whatever, but it's ring fenced, and it actually doesn't have to add any value. It's you playing around. And then there are actual pilots. And those pilots then need to show value, you know, everything that you said. But, you know, I think what we're framing almost as AI problems, and it's already been said, you know, it feels like it's exposing human and system and process problems that predate AI. You know, it's things like working in silos and nobody really knowing what the others are doing. So we don't know where we can add value, or we don't understand the strategic direction of the organization. So how do we contribute to that? And we don't understand the guardrails. We don't know what we can and can't do. You know, so I think and even, you know, cultures where, you know, you're not allowed to fail, you're not allowed to experiment. And I think we're also sitting a little bit with the lag effects of bad agile implementations where it was all around going faster. So never mind showing value, just go fast. You know, so I think there is, in a way, AI is, you know, from a consulting perspective and from a leadership perspective, it's almost showing us the dredges of past decisions that we didn't make or made wrongly, or, you know, so it's almost an opportunity, I suppose, for us to go back to basics and get those things in place. But I think one of the best things we can do is almost create a space where people can safely experiment and not frame those things as pilots. That's just my 2 cents.
I think I agree with you there. That concept that I keep on talking about, which is first principles, understand what you're trying to do. And then, you know, and even if it's not, like you say, if you don't understand the company's drivers, what is making them work, or you don't understand the direction that you need to go in, and you just want to go and experiment something just in case, and nobody can see you and you've got the confidence to do it, I think that's really important. So I really like your idea of a sandbox sort of environment where you give people time to go and play with it. It's a really good idea. And I think, but that comes back to what I was saying, leadership. Leadership need to come up with these different decisions and sort of break the mold of, well, this is how we always used to work. Well, you know, that doesn't matter anymore. It's, you know, I always think about SA breweries. I did a massive piece of work with SA breweries. And there was a big, not that long ago, actually, and there was a big problem with having deliveries on Mondays. And they couldn't deliver on Monday. That was an issue. And their customers were saying, why can't you deliver on a Monday? You know, our pubs are open on Monday. We've had a busy weekend. We've emptied out every fridge we have. We want you to deliver on a Monday. But they had this policy which says they don't deliver on Monday. And eventually, after a lot of work, we tracked it back to, they used to deliver with horses. And over the weekend, the horses were completely overworked and they didn't have any horses that could go out and deliver on a Monday. That's where it came from. And that's what I'm saying. You really need to go back to first principles, you know, and understand what it was, instead of having this concept of, well, that isn't how we do it. We've never done it like this. You know, and I think that's a big thing that's holding companies back. They're not rethinking things, knowing what the tools are that they have available to them now. So yeah, it's a good idea. Thanks, Sonia.
Yeah.
Ben?
I'm just wondering, I love the sandbox idea. You know that I've played with sandboxes in different environments, but real sandboxes. And Devon, I really like the idea of rewarding people X number of tokens to play around with. Is this not something that we as a collective should start, for lack of a better word, promoting the concept of sandboxing and experimenting, not piloting, Devon, but experimenting to a point where then it becomes to a space where you can say, okay, now this deserves to become a pilot. But actually being those people going to our clients saying, experiment, play, but do it in this way that first of all gives everybody experience and confidence, but also allows people to use their imagination, and you have no idea where that's going to come from. So you have 3 hours a week to play, and it's part of the culture of the business, and then share what you played with and see whether there's something in it. I think we need to start pushing for those kinds of ways of organizations. Safeguarded, I think, Sonia, you've got your guardrails and things, but that the playing is allowed in a safe environment in this space at the moment where everybody's so unsure. I think it's such a cool idea. You're on mute, Linda.
About the new AI gateway that Cloudflare has put in place. So what they actually do as part of that service is they actually monitor certain things that happen that are sent out, and if there's company information that's at risk to being exposed through the use of AI, that AI gateway blocks that information from being shared, so it protects the organization. So if the organization puts that level of monitoring and protection in place, you can open up this. So there's no need to try and wrestle with the fact of how do we make it safe for our employees to do this. You can be so much more relaxed and inclusive and encouraging in the workplace with your staff members. Because remember, just as much as we as consultants now find ourselves having so much more time in the day to do what needs to get done, the same thing is going to happen with workers in our organization, and that's going to uplift the whole return that an organization across the board and whatever it's offering and as people are doing will be able to do. So you're going to just get a huge productivity spike happening inside the organization. So I think the mantra to have is to, yes, encourage it, make it happen, include people, reward them for good work done, like Devon was saying earlier as well, by giving them access to use AI, but then also protect the organization at the same time so that you aren't compromising. So the paralysis perhaps at the moment, or the approach of just locking everything down because we're scared we're going to make a mistake or that AI is going to do something weird, I don't think we should get sucked into the potential hype that is being generated by the frontier companies, where they're trying to almost orchestrate that, my AI escaped from its sandbox today and it went and did that. Ooh, be careful, we need government regulation. I mean, all that kind of stuff is really just perhaps then with the guerrilla marketing tactics as well. So I think there's so many things at play here that can overwhelm you so easily. But if you look at it logically and sequentially, like Linda was saying, and go back to first principles thinking, okay, we've got this tool now. What do we need to put in place to make sure that we can look after our people, look after our organization, and protect what we need to protect? And not so much our organization that needs to be protected, but also our customers' information that we have been put in place as custodians of as well. There's another huge thing that we need to be responsible about, I think. I think
there's also an element of my identity and my credibility. I think those two things go hand in hand as well. I think you need to, how's it going to make me look? And I think a lot of people are always worried about that. Mashumi, you wanted to have a word. Do you want to raise your issue? Tell us.
Sure, thanks, Linda. I just wanted to latch on the point that Devon was raising, and what also you were talking about in terms of leadership. What I'm finding is that a financial services firm, I work for Santam and Sanlam, and I'm working for Old Mutual now, is they are taking a very cautious and measured approach, which is understandable, given that any data breaches, for example, would be catastrophic, not just from a reputational image perspective, but you can use your license to operate. One hopes that as they are being measured to build all of these use cases, they are applying the right prioritization. And for me, the right prioritization is about leaders articulating with clarity and conviction what they need to be better at. What are these core capabilities that they want to use to compete out there in the market? If that is not clarified, then you're going to run into this risk that Divan was referring to, and you're not going to get anywhere. The second thing, I think probably the most important, is about culture. AI is going to empower me to be better at what I do, to be much more efficient and productive. But if there is no culture of trust and empowerment, then I'm going to, what I do, my effectiveness is going to be held up by the directive control and the bottlenecks that exist within the system itself. So the conversations on culture and the conversations on distinctive organizational capabilities are not happening properly.
Yeah, I think you've got a very valid point there. You know, I think if you think about every other technology that has really transformed us and made a difference, it didn't affect culture and leadership and all of those things. This is the one that does. You know, whether you installed an ERP system that worked or not, whether you installed cloud-based data repositories, or you what do you call it? You democratized your data lakes or whatever. None of those actually had an impact on the organizational culture or had an impact on the organization's leadership teams and how they deal with it. But this one is so invasive and evasive. It covers everything. So I think you've got a very valid point there. I think it is something that people don't know exactly how to deal with because they're trying to treat it like every other technology that ever has been implemented, and you can't. It's a completely different kettle of fish, and I think there's a struggle going on there. So that was a well-raised point. Thanks, Mushumi. Okay, everybody. I think the next one is the Spark session, and Divan's going to take us through AI literacy and how to measure that. And so I think that's going to be a really good session. Good. Well, other than that, everybody, have a wonderful weekend. I love Fridays because they're such a nice day. We're going to have a nice warm one, Mel and Diane, and has Mook. You're also going to have a nice warm one. Yeah, as Mook, it's going to be a nice warm weekend for you too.
And Tamba's bringing us snow. I think Tamba said he was going to the Berg.
Yeah, he's left now. No, he says Lesotho is snowing, so they're all freezing in Joburg. So good luck there, guys. Light up your fires, have lots of coffee. Keep well. See you.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice seeing you all again. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.